Okay, so actually, I thought we finished chapter 19, but I forgot the last verses of this chapter. So we see these verses, and then chapter 20, Kaf, which is quite short, but has some important points. Well, like any other chapter in the Bible, it's very important, but it's something special about that. We'll see that. Anyway, we saw the last time the last tribe that received his inheritance, Sefer Dan, the tribe of Dan, and then the Sefer Yehoshua concluded all this part of dividing the land between the tribes in verse number 49. When they had finished the land by its boundaries, the Israelim gave a portion in the midst to Yehoshua, son of Nun. Well, again, it's not a good translation. The verse is divided for two. The first part of the verse speaks about they finished to divide the land. ויכלו לנחול את הארץ לגבולותיה. Point. So this is one part of the verse, which concluded, like I said before, all the dividing of the land between the tribes, and everybody received his part. Now, the word it's used here is very interesting. Vayechalu. What is vayechalu? Vayechalu is to finish. There are other words in Hebrew to finish, but this word is special because it appears another time. Do you remember when we use this word vayechalu, vayechulu? Vayechulu hashamayim va'aretz. Right? So we say that every Shabbat. What is vayechulu hashamayim va'aretz v'chol tzeva'am? Hashem finished the creation of the world. So when Hashem finished the creation of the world, the Torah used the word vayechulu, which is very similar to this word that you used here, vayechalu. This word appears in another place. It's harder to remember because you don't say that every Shabbat. But in the last verses of Sefer Shmot, in the end of Sefer Shmot, it says, Vayechal Moshe livnot et hamishkan. I don't know if it was livnot. It's the end of Vayakel Pudei, and then the Parashat Pudei. It says Moshe finished to build the Mishkan. And again, using the same word, Vayechal. Okay? Which is interesting. Linchol, Vayechal, it's similar. Also, Leatchil, to begin, is similar to the word Vayechulu, to finish. It's only the difference of one letter, Chet and Kaf. Right? Instead of Chet, Leatchil, we have Kaf, Lechalot. But anyway, this connection is interesting. This word appears this word appears in the end of the creation of the world, in the end of the building of the Mishkan, in the end, in the inheritance of the land, which these three things are connected to each other, because Hashem created the world with the purpose of having holiness, his presence in the land, in the material world. So this is the purpose. He can be in the heaven. It's not a problem. The problem is to find God here in this world and to live a life that have that presence, the divine's presence in our life. So this was the purpose of the building of the Mishkan. What is Mishkan? Mishkan, lishkon, to habit, to live, is when Hashem live among us. Right? So this was the purpose of the Mishkan. I have a place in the land to the holiness of Hashem, where it can be present in the life of the humanity. Of course, in the central part of the humanity, which is another in Am Israel. And now the third element of that is the land of Israel, because the real place when it can happen, or where the world can be led towards that, is when we have that in the land of Israel. So this is one line. From the creation of the world, Hashem created the world in order to be present in the material world, and then the creation of the Mishkan, where these things can happen, and then the inheritance of the land of Israel, which is the right place to lead this tendency, to lead this purpose in the world.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about building the Mishkan.
Yeah.
So when it's being discussed, all of a sudden it stops and it goes back to the golden calf and talking about the idolatry.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to the building of the Mishkan again. Why in the middle of the building of the Mishkan do we all of a sudden have this business of the golden calf coming in?
Well, it's a good question, not related directly to what we're speaking about. So there is a disagreement about all the issue of the Mishkan, if it was like an answer to the sin of the golden calf, or was the original plan. There are some opinions, I think Sforno said, that all the Mishkan was a result of the sin of the golden calf. Without the golden calf, Hashem would have been present inside us without a need to a certain place, was between each one of us. And after the sin, it was necessary to have Mishkan. Another thing that no, the original plan was to have Mishkan, and then the golden calf came in the middle. So this question is related a little bit to that, because according to the second opinion, we can see it's a proof the fact that the Mishkan was ordered before. So the sin of the golden calf is divided between the order and the application, the implementation of the order. The first two parashot before the golden calf was the order, and then the two parashot after the golden calf was the implementation. So we can see that the order was before the golden calf. So it's like the original plan. And then after the golden calf, maybe there was some adjustment. It wasn't exactly the same. Anyway, I'm not sure. There's maybe other answers for that, but this is maybe the direction. What if it's something that should have been anyway, or only as a result of the golden calf? Okay, so this is the first part of this verse. They had finished to allot in the land of Israel, the land by its boundaries. This is like continue this other two places that the word Vayichulu or Vayichulu, Vayichal is appeared, which means that this is the purpose of everything. The creation of the world in order to have Mishkan in the land of Israel. So this is the three elements of this, of the purpose of the creation of the world. Anyway, and then it says, and the Israelim, the Bnei Israel gave a portion in the midst to Joshua, son of Nun. What does it mean that the Bnei Israel gave him portion? Didn't he get like anyone else? So the next word explains that. It says, at God's command, they gave him the town that he asked for. Oh, so we understand it wasn't like anyone else. He asked for specific part, similar to Caleb. So Yehoshua and Caleb, both Meraglim, spies that were the right, did the right, both asked for certain place, for specific place. So he asks them. We can see something important here. Yehoshua, even though he was the king, the leader, he could do whatever he wanted, he didn't do that. He asked for permission. Right? He didn't abuse his power, let's say, to get whatever he wants. And this is an example for leadership. Also the leader, also the king should go by the rules and not do and take whatever he wants. Anyway, he asked for it. Am Israel said, okay, let's see, it's a special request we should consider with the authority. They asked God. How did they ask God? The Mefarshim say by the Urim Vetumim, the Kohen Gadol that has this part on his chest with the stones, with the letters. So they asked permission from Hashem, and Hashem gave him this permission. Timnat Serach in the hill country of Ephraim. Why there? Because Yehoshua was from the tribe of Ephraim. Now, something interesting. When we see in the Tanakh, in the Torah, I mean, Yehoshua is mentioned as a student of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he also mentioned as the person from the tribe of Ephraim that went to the land of Israel in the spies mission, right? So we knew that he was from the tribe of Ephraim. But apart from there, because he was as a representative of this tribe, he doesn't mention related, is not mentioned related to the tribe of Ephraim. Why? Because he was national leader. He was general. He wasn't taking care of the interests of his tribes. He didn't was related to them in any way. In all the Sefer Yehoshua, we didn't see once that it mentioned that Yehoshua was for the tribe of Ephraim. Only here, we hear that, by the way, no, in indirect way, he got Nachala, part in the land of Israel, in the tribe of Ephraim. But apart from that, he doesn't have any special treatment or relation to the tribe of Ephraim. He is general. He belongs to everybody. Not to his party, not to his family, not to his tribe. Anyway, he asked, and they asked Hashem, not special treatment. He received like everybody else. and Hashem gives this permission, and he sets there. So Timnat Serach in the hill country of Ephraim, he fortified the town and settled in it. And this is the verse that concludes everything. These are the portions assigned by lot to the tribe of Israel by the priest Elazar, Yehoshua son of Nun, and the family heads before Hashem at Shiloh, at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When they had finished dividing, again, it use again the same word, vayichalu. I don't know why it translated it like when. It's not when. And then we can say, and then they finished dividing the land. Vayichalu mechalek et haaretz. They finished dividing the land. Okay, so this is chapter 19, and now we continue to chapter 20. Any comments about that? Questions? No? Okay.
There is a Yehoshua great. It's a Arab village called Kifel Haaretz. Same place. People know if
Timnat Haaretz, Kifel Haaretz. Yeah, so the
it's the real place according to all of them.
I don't know. I don't know this place. I haven't heard about it, but it says that the grave of Yehoshua is over there in the Shomron, right in the mountains, the territories. Okay, so chapter 20 is quite short, and he's speaking about something I would say awkward. Why is it here, and why is it so important? And also, I will read in Hebrew the word. It says, "Vaydaber Hashem el Yehoshua lemor." What does it remind you? Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor. The only person, or the only time in the own Bible, apart from the Torah, that it uses this style of writing is with Yehoshua. It doesn't appear anywhere else in the Tanakh. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, Vaydaber Hashem el Yehoshua lemor. Right? It's interesting. God said to Yehoshua, but why use to this language? So I will give the first answer shortly, and then I explain a little bit more later. It says, the Chachamim says, because what we are going to read is very like the Torah. It's the style of the Torah itself. It's talking here about one mitzvah. The mitzvah is already mentioned in the Torah. The mitzvah is Arei Miklat, the shelter towns. Do you remember this concept of shelter towns? It's when someone kills someone by mistake. He has to go there, and then there is protected from the revenge. There is what is called Goel Dam, the what? Revenger of blood. Okay. Here it says, yeah, blood avenger, blood avenger. And then he should stay. So this is mitzvah, a specific mitzvah in the Torah. And it's written at least twice in the Torah, and it's mentioned in other places also. And we'll have to speak about why it's so much. Why the Torah repeat one mitzvah so much? And it says now here Hashem order Yehoshua in the same style he usually order Moshe, and we have here a mitzvah that is written in the same style that it's written in the Torah. It's almost the same words as the Torah, as it's written in the Torah. So let's read now the mitzvah, and then we'll see. To speak to Bnei Israel, designate the cities of refuge about which I commanded you through Moshe, to which a manslayer who kills a person by mistake. What is manslayer? Murder?
Manslaughter. Actually, didn't murder him. He didn't intend to murder him or kill him.
Yeah.
What happened was an accident.
So manslayer is by accident?
Manslaughter.
Slaughter, but he doesn't write written in his T. Manslaughter.
Yes, it's not completely by accident.
It's by his responsibility.
Meant to hurt the person but not kill him.
This is a legal definition.
Yeah.
So I will tell you exactly. It's a translation. The Hebrew word is very clear. It says murderer, rotzeach. Rotzeach is murderer. There should be a murderer. Then it says who killed person by mistake. Maken nefesh bishgaga. A murderer, and then by mistake. Bivli dat, unintentionally. So again, we'll speak about it again. I mean, it depends on the time later. And it says, so there a man who killed a person by mistake may flee. They shall serve you as a refuge from the blood avenger. And then the slayer It's slaughter, slayer.
Manslaughter.
Why it's not written with T? It's written S-L-A-Y-E-R.
Oh, yeah, it's the slave, the one that slays, that's right. But in terms of the,
What?
the crime of manslaughter,
What? Who doesn't kill?
The one who kills. the one
he's
who-
the slayer.
The killer.
Slay means kill.
Yeah, but manslaughter is
Slayer is the one who kills.
Okay, so the slayer, the killer, the murderer, the slayer shall flee to one of these cities, stand at the entrance to the city gate, and plead the case before the elders of the city. Plead the case, the whole case. They are going to judge him there. It looks like that. Plead the case. ודיבר באוזן זקני העיר את דבריו. And they shall offer admission to the city and provide a place in which it will live among them. And then, should the blood avenger come in pursuit, they should not give up the manslayer, since the other person was killed without intent and had not been an enemy in the past. So the case was decided, right? He is not killer. But then the next verse says, the slayer should live in that city until there is a trail before the assembly. Wasn't it already a trail? So why again is trail? So apparently the first trail wasn't a trail. It was that like the pre-judgment debate, right? They're just checking generally that it can be accepted in the meantime. All right, it's not all the trail. And then he is sent to the trail before the assembly and remains there until the death of the high priest. Where he remained? In the trail? No, we understand that when the trail is over and it's decided that he was killing by mistake, then he go back to the city. I mean, all these details we complete from the verses from the Torah that we know, right? So until the death of the high priest, who is in office at that time, why depend on that? Why you should wait there until the death of the Kohen Gadol? Makot, yeah, but we speak about that. Thereafter, the manslayer may return home. And what about the blood avenger? Apparently, you cannot touch him anymore. Okay, to the town from which that person fled. So this is the order that Hashem gave Yehoshua, like I said before, almost in the same word that was ordered to Moshe Rabbeinu. And then, so they set aside Kadesh in the hill country of Naphtali in Galil, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Yehuda. You can see in this page, it shows, you have this page, the refugee city. So it's like in a little green and red. Kadesh Naphtali is up north. You can see here near Dan, where it says Naphtali, Kadesh Naphtali. And then Shechem is in the middle, in Nachalat Ephraim. You see in Shechem? And Hebron is in the middle of Yehuda. So it's more or less, with the distance, it's more or less, not exactly, the same distance, right? It's divided for 3. Like it says in the Torah. The Torah said you should make them in a logical distance between each other. So the killer has a close place to go to. Okay? And then that was in the western part of the Yarden. And then it says, and across the Yarden, east of Jericho, they assigned Betzer in the wilderness, in the tableland, from the tribe of Reuven, Ramot in Gilad from the tribe of Gad, and Golan in Bashan from the tribe of Menashe. So you can see again, Reuven 1, Gad here, Ramot Gilad, and Golan. Also 3 parts. Now a question, how many tribes are there in the eastern part of the Yarden? 2.5. How many cities do they have?
Half of the city.
3. How many tribes are there in the western part of the Yarden? 9.5, and they also have 3. It looks the proportion is. Okay, we'll speak about that. So there is a disproportion, right? There is a disproportion in the dividing of this. And then another question in the end. All these questions are questions that are answered in Rashi on the Torah in Chachamim. They're very famous. I'm just mentioning them in order to after that explain everything. We read in Sefer Dvarim, Parashat Vayetchanan, that Moshe already gave these 3 cities in the other side, in the eastern side of the Yarden: Betzer, Ramot וגולן were already made refugee cities in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself did that. So why here again? Okay, so this is the question. Now let's see the last verse. It says, those are the town designated for all the Israelim, for all Bnei Israel, and for the resident alien among them, to which anyone who killed a person unintentionally may flee and not die by the hand of the blood avenger before standing trial by the assembly. After that, he will be died by the blood avenger. No? It sounds like that. He won't be died until that. But after that, he would. Depends on the trade. Okay, so now I want to start explaining some of the points that I mentioned before. First of all, the most important thing is that Sefer Yehoshua, in some levels or in some aspect, is almost like the Torah itself. We can say it's a in-between level between the Torah and the Nevi'im. We explained in the beginning, if you remember, we have Ketuvim, is the lowest level, it's Ruach HaKodesh. We have Nevi'im, can also be divided between Nevi'im Rishonim, Nevi'im Achronim, and we have the Torah. And it's one above the other. Yehoshua, in some way, it's in between the Torah and the Nevi'im. We can see that in many, there are many proofs for that, many explanations for that. First of all, there is a midrash saying that unless Am Yisrael had sinned, I mean, if Am Yisrael wouldn't have sinned, we wouldn't have all the books of the Tanakh. We would only have Chamisha Chumshe Torah and Sefer Yehoshua. So anyway, even without a sin, so all the rest of the Tanakh is a result of a sin. Am Yisrael made a sin, he made a lot of sins, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished them, and they had to have the judge, and the kings, and the wars, and the galut, the exile, and all the history developed from the fact that we made sin. It's not a mistake bug in the plan. This is the original plan, but we can say it's not the ideal scenario. The ideal scenario would have been that Am Yisrael received the Torah, didn't make Chet HaEgel, complete the Torah, and the world was in his redemption, in the perfect end of the world. But it wasn't like that. So we need all the rest of the Tanakh. But we can understand that without the sin, we only needed the Torah, which is the original plan, and Sefer Yehoshua. Why Sefer Yehoshua? The Gemara says, the Midrash says, because it gives you the value of Eretz Israel. Because it's Eretz Israel. We understand the Torah is not completed by the 5 books, because we're still missing something. How the Torah ended? In Moshe, in the wilderness, speaking to Am Yisrael, and died in the wilderness, without entering into the land of Israel. So the story cannot end outside the land of Israel. The land of Israel finally is the purpose, like we said before about Vayechulu, Vayechalu, etc. So the line always should ended in the land of Israel. So Sefer Yehoshua in that meaning has the same level, or not same level, but closest level to the original Torah, to the 5 books of Moshe Rabbeinu. We saw also that, there's another point about that, the last 8 verses of the Torah. It's a very famous big debate about that. The last 8 verses of the Torah speaks about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. And it says, Vayamot Moshe, and Moshe died. Who wrote that? And Moshe died. Moshe wrote, I died. I mean, Moshe died, wrote about himself. So maybe, yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him before he died, write, and I died. It's okay, he can do that. So there is one opinion that Moshe wrote them crying. Bedema. He was written in crying, because he wrote about what's happened after he died. This is one opinion. Other opinion is that the last 8 verses were written by Yehoshua. So according to that opinion, part of the Torah, even though it's only 8 verses, and there is a debate about their exactly, if it's considered exactly like the Torah or differently from the Torah, but anyway, we can see that Yehoshua has part in the highest level of prophecy, which is the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. We say that the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu is pure prophecy from Hashem without any intervention of the prophet itself. It is like totally pure tube to the word of Hashem. So Yehoshua belongs to that, right? So this is something unique about Yehoshua, the only human being that apart from Moshe Rabbeinu that has part in the Torah. And even though it's written by Yehoshua, it's part of Sefer Torah. If Sefer Torah missing a word or a letter in these last 8 verses, it's pasul, it's not good, right? So Yehoshua could arrive to write something in the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. The third point is what we just mentioned now, that this wording of Vaydaber Hashem El Moshe only appears in other person, only related to Yehoshua, Vaydaber Hashem El Yehoshua. And the last one is that Yehoshua is really ordered like Moshe Rabbeinu for a mitzvah. So there is a mitzvah that was ordered to Yehoshua in the same way it was ordered to Moshe Rabbeinu. So we can see in this parasha, we can see how the Sefer Yehoshua is part or the completion to complete the Torah, complement of the Torah. In some way, it's finished, it ends in the Torah. So now the big question that is asked also before, why is this mitzvah? It looks like a very not so important mitzvah, let's say. As if someone kills someone by mistake, he should do all that stuff. Why, for example, he could have ordered him, I don't know, Shabbat. He could have ordered him about building the temple. Many other mitzvot that looks more central in the Jewish life, about korbanot. There were tefillah. There are things that are more central in our life. Why to take this case in order to make this important note? Vaydaber Hashem el Yehoshua lemor, Anochi Hashem Elokech. Okay, so there are other mitzvot that could have been written here to show us this idea of the connection between Sefer Yehoshua and the Torah. Why to choose this mitzvah, which is looking like, again, less important than what other mitzvot could be considered? And well, to complete this question, like I mentioned before, this mitzvah, again, appears in the Torah several times. And always that it mentioned, and these are the cities, and Moshe Rabbeinu was important to him to start. So I just answer the question I asked before. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Chachamim say that these Arei Miklat do not function without all the land of Israel and the land of Israel. It's they start functioning, so they start and complete their mission only when all the land of Israel is in the hands of Am Israel. So when Moshe Rabbeinu elected these 3 cities, or sanctified these 3 cities, it wasn't still it wasn't yet working. It was only theoretical. So why did he do that? Why didn't he wait? Chachamim said, mitzvah ba liadcha al tachmitzena. You have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, do it. Even though it's not be completed by you, it will be completed later. Let's do what you can, do whatever you can, and then Moshe Rabbeinu did that. So it's in some way we can say that the only mitzvah related to the land of Israel made by Moshe Rabbeinu was designating these 3 cities. So again, we can see the importance of this in the Torah. So maybe the explanation of that is related to something I said in one of my drashot of Friday evening. So I'm not sure if you've been there, if you remember. I will say that shortly because we don't have a lot of time. And well, it's a very wide issue. But generally, we can say that the mitzvot, the purpose of the mitzvot is to improve us, right? We make mitzvot in order to be better people, in order to be better Jews, in order to be connected with Hashem, elevated spiritually, etc. So mitzvot are with a purpose to make us good. But there are some mitzvot that in some level can make us spiritual damage, right? What kind of mitzvot? Mitzvot that are related with cruelty. And there are various examples of that. I will give 3 examples. First of all, the case of Pinchas. Do you remember the case of Pinchas? Pinchas killed the person that was with the Midianite in front of everybody. This is a cruel action. You take a sword, or what would you call the long one? What?
Spear.
Spear, you can spear, put inside 2 people together, lift them, and everybody see, and the blood is shedding in the air. It's not look like a nice action. Now, doing such an action can, I would say, scratch your soul. It's leave you some kind of impression. You killed someone with your own hands. So Pinchas may be affected. I'm telling you now according to the explanation of the Nazi mythology. So after the next parasha, it says that Hashem gave Pinchas, אני נותן לך את בריתי שלום. I will give you my covenant of peace. What does it mean, covenant of peace? So Nazi mythology explained that this action of cruelty won't make you damage, won't hurt you spiritually or mentally. You would stay tzaddik and straight and protected from this kind of action. Another example of that is what is called Ir HaNidachat. Ir HaNidachat, it's again one of the most brutal mitzvot that we have in the Torah. It's so brutal until there are opinions in Masechet Sanhedrin that it's never happened. It's never happened and never will happen. The Torah only came, intention was to make a point here. Ir HaNidachat means when the whole city is making idolatry, is having idolatry, so it should be eliminated, all the city. So we should come, all of the Jews should come, take the city and kill everybody and burn it. And the screaming and the yelling and everybody's crying and you're killing people. It's awful, right? It's awful, like I said before, one opinion in the Talmud is that it's never happened, other opinion that it's happened once. One rabbi saying in the Talmud, I was sitting on its ruin. I was there, I saw that, and I sat on it. Anyway, it's something that is very, very hard. And of course, the effect of that can be huge on the person, on the soul, on the mental situation of the person who did that. So the Torah said, "V'natan lecha rachamim v'richamecha." Hashem will give you mercy, and will mercy you. How do you say mercy in verb? And will have mercy on you, right? Natan lecha rachamim, he give you mercy, and will have mercy on you. So again, the Nazi mythology explain exactly that. This kind of mitzvot can hurt you spiritually and mentally. So Hashem will promise you that if you do that correctly, in the right way, according to all the rules, Hashem would protect from this effect on you. It wouldn't affect you in the way it's usually killing people affect people, right? I just mentioned in the actual politics in Israel, I mean, not actual, the last 50 years, more or less, there's a lot, one of the arguments of the left is exactly that. Being in the territories, controlling other nation, make damage to our children that have to go there and they have to block people in the roads and they have to get inside cities to look for weapon or to take some terrorists. It damages the souls of our children. I won't argue with it right now. I just would say there is a point of truth. I mean, I believe we are better, and and that's when we don't have other option, according to my opinion. I won't give you now the answers politically that I belong to the right, as you can guess. I won't enter this argue, but I'm saying that this point of, it's called in Hebrew a kibush mashchit, the occupation, how do you say mashchit, make you bad person, which again, it has some point of truth. It has some point of truth. We are not protected from this effect because again, enter into houses with old ladies screaming, and you have to take this as her son to the prison. It makes something on your soul. Blocking people with families, and you have to check the car for I don't know, for bombs or something like that. You must do that. You must protect life, right? But it affects you. You are not the same person after that. Okay, so we understand that this kind of actions can affect us. And maybe the strongest example is the case of David HaMelech. David HaMelech wanted to build the temple, and Hashem told him, you cannot build the temple. Why? Because you have blood on your hands. Right, so what is blood of the hands of David? We are leaving aside now the case of Uriah Hittite, which is not related to that. You have blood on your hands, meaning you did a lot of wars. That was the explanation. You had wars with the Plishtim and Ammonim and Moavim and Edomim. David, all his life had wars. Yeah, but he didn't just went and kill people in the street because he liked killing people. He did mitzvah. The mitzvah of protecting Am Israel, of protecting the land of Israel, right, against the enemies of Am Israel. It wasn't just killing people. No, but it has some kind of effect. The Bet Mikdash, the temple, should be built by Shlomo, Shalom, right? When he has peace in his life. the place, the temple, the holy place where the life would be longer, should be built by someone that wasn't in all this topic of wars, all these problems of war. Again, it's not a bad thing that David did. He did a great mitzvah. He got his part in the next world for this mitzvah, fighting against the enemies of Israel. It's not doubt that it's a good thing that he did. It was a holy thing that he did. Yeah, but it has some effect. So the temple should be built by Shlomo. And as already also you know that the temple or the ark, the altar, cannot be built by iron. Why? Because the iron used to make weapon, and the altar should be made to make the life longer. So after saying all of that, we can understand that also having wars in the land of Israel can affect. We have 7 years of war. We talked about 7 years of war, and after that it's continued. So it may affect the way we appreciate or evaluate the value of life. So people can be less sensitive about killing other people by mistake, not by mistake. So it may affect us. So again, entering the land of Israel, before entering the land of Israel, we don't have this problem. Entering the land of Israel and having this war, so many wars, so many bloodshed, and seeing that, it may affect the people. And the value of life wouldn't be the same. And that's the reason that entering to the land of Israel, the first mitzvah that Yehoshua is ordered, or the first mitzvah that they are doing, well, we talked about Pesach and Brit Milah, it's another mitzvah. But the first mitzvah is Arei Miklat, because now we must fix that. We must return to be normal. We must be sensitive to human life and understand that even killing by mistake is an awful thing, and we must fight against that. So this is the reason that this mitzvah appears here. So we have some more questions, but the time is already over. We are going to continue. I hope next week before Rosh Hashanah, we will continue another class and to complete all the other points. But this is maybe the main points in this chapter.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe and Phil.
Thank you all.